Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's program. On behalf of Sunstar Cebu, I'm Seth Romana, and our guest for this afternoon is the Vice President for the Corporate Affairs Group of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, Mr. June Villarreal. Good afternoon, Sir June.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody.
It's also worth mentioning, sir, that today's program is also being live streamed over at the Facebook page of Sunstar Pampanga and Sunstar Davao. Would you like to greet their viewers as well?
Well, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will learn a lot in this afternoon session.
So before we go any further, could you please tell us who PDIC is, what its mandates are, and why is it important to the Philippine financial system?
Well, the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation is the government agency mandated to provide depositor protection through deposit insurance. As you know, deposit insurance is a guarantee provided by the government for all the depositors of Philippine banks or any bank operating in the Philippines, just in case the Monetary Board of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will close them. So this is a safety net that can only be provided whenever a bank is closed. So only then can depositors be provided with such privilege or benefit through deposit insurance.
Aside from the deposit insurance coverage that PDIC gives to the depositing public, I believe there's another side of the PDIC that not a lot of people know about. Can you tell us about this on the other side, Sergio?
Well, thank you for asking that, Seth. The Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, aside from being the deposit insurer, is also the liquidator of closed banks. So as I said earlier, whenever the Monetary Board orders a closure of a bank, PDIC will prepare for the payment of all the insured deposits in that bank, but at the same time will now also prepare to act as the receiver or liquidator of the bank. This means all the assets and liabilities of the bank will now be under the administration of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation and no longer the owners or management of the bank. And as liquidator, the task now of PDIC is to make sure that the assets are liquidated, or in other words, liquefied to turn into cash, and all the liabilities should be settled, which include the creditors, all the obligations of the bank should be settled to the extent possible given the available assets of the bank.
When we talk about creditors of closed banks, can you give us examples of who these creditors are?
Well, creditors are, in a general sense, all those parties that the closed bank have obligations to settle. So this will include the employees whose back wages have not been settled. This will also include the suppliers of the bank, previous suppliers who gave them something or delivered something which had not been paid yet, and even the uninsured deposits of the depositors. Because as you know, the insured deposits have been already settled by the PDIC. But anything in excess of the insured amount, but for everybody to know, the insurance coverage right now is up to 500,000 pesos per depositor. If a depositor has a deposit balance in excess of this amount, the excess will be settled through the liquidation proceeds as gathered by PDIC's liquidator and no longer PDIC as a deposit insurer. Therefore, it's important that PDIC can also act quickly and surely to liquidate the assets, so these obligations of all to creditors be paid as well.
You mentioned that one of the creditors of closed banks are depositors whose deposit balances are above 500,000. Is that right, sir?
Right,
Okay.
that's correct.
So let's say I'm one of those depositors. Let's say I have, 600,000 pesos in a closed bank. And then given that PDIC's maximum deposit insurance coverage is only 500,000, that means I still have 100,000 pesos left, which is treated as money owed by the closed bank. So to the extent of 100,000, I am a creditor.
You are
Of the
you
bank.
are a creditor of the closed bank. to the extent, to the amount beyond or greater than the maximum deposit insurance coverage.
Okay. That's right, sir. And you also mentioned a while ago that a big chunk of the PDIC's functions as a receiver is basically liquidating or selling or converting into cash the bank's assets. And correct me if I'm wrong, sir, no? The reason for that is so that there will be funds available to pay off the creditors. That's right. So what are examples of these assets that you liquidate?
Any closed bank would have properties. Properties owned or under their care. So if upon clearing, upon checking all the documents on these properties, we call it real estate in ROPA.
Real and other properties acquired?
Call it ROPA, okay. Acquired properties. But what PDIC does is to sell them off through a public bidding and through negotiated sale. Usually in the selling or disposing these properties, PDIC sets a minimum bid price based on appraisals made either by PDIC's own assessment team, appraisal team, or an external party. So we sell this off so we can convert these assets into cash. The other way of also liquidating the assets of the closed bank would be the collection of the loans. Okay, so we know that any closed bank would have certain loans in their portfolio, and PDIC now, as receiver or liquidator, is now tasked to collect payments from these borrowers. So because they can add to the cash now that can make up the liquidation proceeds for distribution to the creditor.
When it comes to properties, do closed banks have other acquired properties aside from let's say from land or houses, lots? Are there other assets of worth that you're also liquidating on behalf of closed banks?
Well, that's true. Yes, there are. Paintings, jewelries. In fact, we have also club shares, number of assets. In fact, even the furniture, the equipment, all these assets are really sold off, and there are various modes of really selling them off. But we usually go through a bidding process to make sure that we get the best price, not for PDIC's sake, but for the sake of creditors. So we can pull as much funds as possible for distribution later.
Okay, sir. I'm sure there are people who are watching today that may be interested in buying some of the assets that you're selling on behalf of closed banks, especially you mentioned properties. So if let's say if I'm an interested buyer or if I'm interested to check out the real estate properties you're selling, what do I do?
Well, a number of things. But firstly, you need to check our, there's a microsite, there's a web, we have a particular site in PDIC, we call it Assets for Sale. This is a specialized site in our website that features all the properties available for sale. So if you're interested, you may check our website, and it's under the, in one of the icons in our website, Assets for Sale. But you can go directly to our microsite which says Assets for Sale, PDIC Assets for Sale. You can check the properties there. They are arranged by area, they are arranged by type. Name it, we have it, like condominiums, commercial spaces, housing, whether it's low cost or middle range. We have them. You can check them. The available prices are also there. So if you're interested, you have to enlist yourself to an e-bidding portal registration, and all the details on how to register are also provided in the site.
Okay, sir. I'm just curious, since you're liquidating assets of the bank in order to help settle creditors' claims, Do you sell the assets at market price or at a fire sale? How do you usually price the assets? I'm just curious.
Well, it's always based on existing prevailing market. Okay,
Prevailing market.
so it's based on the appraised value, current market value
Current
of the
market
price. By the way, these assets are sold as is where is. So we are not really enhancing them. So you can purchase them where they are and as they are. So, and they are valued at the same time on what you see based on these properties.
Okay. When you're able to sell these assets, sir, where do the proceeds go? Or do they form part of the same fund from which you pay deposit insurers, or are they separate?
The funds collected from the disposal of assets or even from the collection of loan payments, they are not added to PDIC's funds that are used for paying deposit insurance claims. Each closed bank will have its own pool of funds. So for instance, Bank A, which closed early this year, all the collections, all the sales coming from the assets and loans of Bank A are pulled to the funds of Bank A because Bank A has its own list of creditors whom we have to satisfy or settle our obligations later. So we have a separate pool of funds prepared for each closed bank, which have in turn its own set of creditors to settle later. So they're not mingled with other closed banks. Each fund is really settled or set for each closed. Each fund is prepared for each closed bank to settle for its own set of creditors.
So this is to ensure that all proceeds from the liquidation of a closed bank
will
go
go
to the creditors
of that bank.
You mentioned that for assets like properties or equipment, furniture, liquidation involves selling them or auctioning them off. But how about for loans? How does PDIC liquidate or convert into cash the loan portfolios of closed banks?
We collect the loan payments from the borrowers by first sending them a demand letter, a letter that would simply say that there's a certain amount that you owe the closed bank, and we need to collect them so we can be able to liquidate the assets of closed bank for reporting, not only to the creditors but also to government, so we can clean already the records of the closed bank. So we collect them, and there's also a way of selling the entire portfolio of a loan bank to another financial institution. But that's another matter. It's a wholesale process of collection. But for the retail process, like maybe asking a particular borrower to pay for the loan, so we ask them to pay given the records that they found in the bank, the schedule, the amount, and even we provide a different process. In fact, we will try to make it easy for the borrowers to settle them and try to find out a way to really make it easy not only in terms of the payments, but also on the channels on which they can pay.
I understand now that for most of the assets of the bank, you liquidate them simply by selling them or by auctioning them off, right? Usually at market price. But how about the loan portfolios of closed banks? How does PDIC liquidate or turn them into cash?
We approach the loan collection in two ways. We do a wholesale approach and a retail approach.
Wholesale and retail.
In the wholesale, we talk to financial institutions who can buy the entire loan portfolio for them to manage. That's a separate topic altogether. In the retail approach, we deal with every borrower and send them we call it demand letter, but basically it simply states the amount that they owe the bank, and we are offering them an opportunity to settle or discuss with us on how to help them settle it. So the first is issuance of a demand letter. And for those who responded positively to our communication, we meet them and agree on a certain settlement terms. So we talk about terms of payment, in terms of the period on how to pay, and even the ways to settle. So those are basically the ways to settle for loans.
So when it comes to collecting loans, what are the challenges that you usually encounter in doing that?
Well, PDIC is faced with great challenges, in fact, in collecting loan payments. Firstly, people think that whenever a bank is closed, the obligation of a borrower from the bank has been extinguished. So we'd like to clarify, while the bank has been closed by the Monetary Board, the obligation is still there. We will be going out and collect from you, because that's very important for us to clean the books of the bank. Again, the thinking that the loan is already extinguished, therefore I'm good, I'm happy. You know, sometimes people are happy when a bank is closed because they think they can get away with this. But no, PDIC will collect the loans because we need the money to pay our creditors. The second problem, Seth, would be the records of the closed bank. We have encountered challenges in coming up with a good and clean record of loans for every borrower. We encounter a number of times that the bank has not maintained well the records. Therefore, when we now try to update or even check the records of the borrower, we are having a hard time. I think the most common would be addresses were not updated, even the names, even the terms. And worse, the records are not updated and not computerized. So therefore, we would like also to appeal to some of the borrower clients that we have. I think it's taking time for some of them for us to provide them with an updated statement of affairs or account. So please bear with us as we try to check our records of the closed bank.
I guess to that extent, it's also important for them to realize the importance of really keeping updated and accurate records, right? Especially if you have paid all or part of your loan. So it's important that you keep those records, right, sir?
Yeah, that's a very good point to recommend or suggest. For those who have already paid their loans or part of their loans, it's important to keep track or to keep the evidences of your payment. So just in case the records of the close of the bank would be a problem, then you have an easy way to prove that you have really paid your account.
Okay, that being said, sir, does PDIC have any strategies or incentives to encourage borrowers of closed banks to settle their obligations?
You know, Seth, this is a very good question because PDIC has recently launched a program to help the borrowers of closed banks settle their obligations to PDIC.
What's this program, sir?
We have launched the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program. We call it CLIP, Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program. This is simply a campaign for the borrowers of closed banks to settle their obligations from the closed bank, with PDIC providing some incentives, some discounts on the principal balance, including interest or penalty charges. We can waive them subject to certain conditions and limits. No? So for instance, for borrowers that have loan balances or loan amounts not exceeding 1 million, we have a special package for you. And there's a separate program for banks, for borrowers whose banks were closed before the year 2020, and there's a slightly different program for banks that were closed from 2020 up to present.
So for the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program, or CLIP, who are qualified to avail of the incentives under the said program, sir?
For CLIP, we are targeting borrowers whose principal loan balance is not more than or around 1 million, not exceeding 1 million.
Maximum of 1 million.
Maximum 1 million. So if you are that borrower, then you're qualified to the program to avail of certain privileges or certain discounts that we will be offering.
That's very interesting. So could you give us an idea of what those incentives are, sir?
You know, the incentives depend on when the bank they owe money to was closed. So the first group would be for newly closed banks, those banks which were closed in 2020 and up to present. So for the borrowers for this group of banks, we can provide them a 10% discount or reduction on their outstanding principal and booked interest and other charges if they have.
Mm-hmm.
We also provide a full waiver of the unbooked interest and penalty charges. Now, for those who borrowed from banks that were closed before the year 2020, we have two groups of packages. First, for those with clean loans, we can offer 25% discount or reduction on outstanding principal, including booked interest and other charges. We also provide them with a full waiver of unbooked interest and penalty charges. The second group for this type of package would be for those who have secured loans. And for those borrowers, we can offer a reduction of unbooked interest on the principal amount from actual rate to only 5% per annum. So we can reduce the rate up to 5%. And a full waiver of unbooked penalty charges.
For the benefit of our viewers who may not be that familiar, sir, what's the difference between a clean and a secured loan?
Clean loans are actually loans that were taken from the bank without any collateral. You got the money as it is, the money. Secured loans, on the other hand, required a collateral or a property from you as a borrower that you have to pledge with the bank. So the collateral used more often would be real estate property like land or your own building, or even your car or other equipment.
For the benefit of our viewers, can you give us an illustrative example that can show them how much they can really benefit if they avail of the incentives under CLIP?
Sure. So let's take, for instance, you have a clean loan that you borrowed from a bank that was closed before the year 2020, and you have an outstanding principal balance of 1 million.
Okay.
With booked interest and penalty charges of another 200,000. However, you have an unbooked interest and penalty charges of another 200,000 because it took a while before these are really paid or arranged. So, without the program, you as a borrower should pay or should settle an amount you should settle 1.4 million. So this is what you owe already to PDIC based on your loan.
Okay.
However, if you avail of this the incentives under CLIP or the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program, you're already entitled to 25% discount on your outstanding principal and booked interest and penalties charges. So if you are, again, going back, if you have a loan of 1 million and booked interest, penalties, and charges of another 200,000, so you have 1.2, you're entitled to a 25% discount. So you can have a discount as much as 300,000. And all your unbooked interest penalties and charges are also waived. In my case, in our example earlier, you have a 200,000 worth of unbooked interest and penalties, so they are waived. So you're now getting a discount or a waiver of worth 500,000 pesos. So your earlier obligation of 1.4 million will now be down to 900,000 pesos by this, if you avail of the program.
Right now, sir, I think some of the viewers who are interested in the program might also be thinking, can they pay in installments?
Well, the program's design is for the immediate settlement of the loan. So the borrowers who will avail of this program will have to settle their remaining balance into one-time settlement.
Okay, one-time cash payment.
Not anymore.
Okay, sir. But although, sir, like in your example a while ago, it's clear that the financial benefits are really meaningful, are really significant. But what are other reasons, important reasons, for them to seriously consider availing of the closed bank loan incentive program?
Well, as borrowers, we need to keep track of our credit record. So if you borrowed from a financial institution, like a bank, which happened to be closed, then your ability to settle your loan obligations will really improve your credit record. And that's very important for any borrower or any person who's into the financial system. Because if you plan to borrow again, maybe from another bank or another financial institution, your records would show or can show that you have a pending obligation with the bank. And that would not be good as far as your credit record is concerned. So, let's improve your credit record by paying your obligations, even the bank has been closed. Second, when you settle your obligations in a closed bank, you are helping build the liquidation proceeds of that bank and can be used now to pay the obligations of the closed bank with its own creditors. For all you know, you may be also one of the creditors. So it's good now to pay your loans so it can help another person who's a creditor for the closed bank.
And I think it's worth emphasizing there, sir, that their payment will not be for the benefit of PDIC, but for the creditors of the closed banks.
And it can be the employee of that closed bank. It can be a supplier. Another, on a personal level, when you settle your loan obligation, it's a fulfillment on your part. By the way, you have already used the amount. So might as well settle it or pay for it. And if you were able to settle your own loan account, it's a relief, and it's also, for me, it's a fulfillment that you were able to clear yourself with the obligation and also help the creditors of the closed bank. It's a clean record. Then you can sleep well.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm sure our viewers, especially those who have outstanding balances with closed banks and are interested to avail of the program, might be wondering where can they get information or the rest of the details concerning CLIP. Where can they get information, sir, on the closed bank loan incentive program?
Well, the basic information source will be the PDIC website. So to know more about CLIP, please visit our website at www.pdic.gov.ph, and you can look for the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program for more information. You can also send an email to our staff. You can send an email at CLIP, that's CLIP-PAD. PAD stands for our Public Assistance Department. CLIP-PAD at pdic.gov.ph. You can inquire from our account officers who are very willing to share more information about this. You can also call our hotline. It's if you're in Metro Manila, you can call us at 8841-4141. This is a hotline, 8841-4141. If you're living outside Metro Manila, you can call us at our toll-free number at 1-800-999-3600. 0917-888-7342.
Thank you very much for the information, Sir June, and I'm sure our viewers this afternoon have learned a lot, not just about the other side of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, but also about the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program. As we end our program today, do you have any parting messages to our viewers?
Well, not that much, but would like to greet everybody good afternoon and stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir June. And there you have it, our guest for today, Mr. June Villaret, Vice President for Corporate Affairs of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. Thank you very much, Sir June, not just for showing us the other side of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, but also for helping us understand or know more about the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program, or CLIP. So as we end today, do you have any parting messages for our viewers today?
Well, we just would like to inform everybody that even if banks close, you have an ally, you have a friend in PDIC who can guarantee your deposits. Dahil sa PDIC, bank deposito mo, protektado. So thank you very much for this time, and we look forward to see you inquire more about CLIP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir June. And that's it for today's program. Again, our guest for today was Mr. June Villaret, the Vice President for Corporate Affairs of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. And for Sunstar Cebu, I'm Seth Romana, and good day to all of you. Stay safe. Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's program. On behalf of Sunstar Cebu, I'm Seth Romana, and our guest for this afternoon is the Vice President for the Corporate Affairs Group of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, Mr. June Villaret. Good afternoon, Sir June.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody.
It's also worth mentioning, sir, that today's program is also being live streamed over at the Facebook page of Sunstar Pampanga and Sunstar Davao. Would you like to greet their viewers as well?
Well, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will learn a lot in this afternoon session.
Thank you very much, Sir June, not just for showing us the other side of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, but also for helping us understand or know more about the Closed Bank Loan Incentive Program, or CLIP. So as we end today, do you have any parting messages for our viewers today?
Well, we just would like to inform everybody that even if banks close, you have an ally, you have a friend in PDIC who can guarantee your deposits. Dahil sa PDIC, bank deposito mo, protektado. So thank you very much for this time, and we look forward to see you inquire more about CLIP.
Thank you very much, Sir June. And that's it for today's program. Again, our guest for today was Mr. June Villaret, the Vice President for Corporate Affairs of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. And for Sunstar Cebu, I'm Seth Romana, and good day to all of you. Stay safe.